I knew something was wrong because it was like 38-degree days all that week, and there was a really bad smell, but I didn't put two and two together. And then I called out and I went into her room and I found her murdered. She was my big sister, so she was my idol, my everything. She was protective, she was nurturing. If things weren't really happy in the house, she always made sure that, the little sister was all right, and she always walked me to school and walked me to the class and just always protected me. And we just cherished each other. We were best friends. Had some domestic violence through the house due to both parents. And Kelly would always take me up to the bedroom when there was yelling and fighting and sing songs or read me a book or, so I wasn't scared and just let me know that it'll be all right. I'll stop fighting soon.
Tell me about the last time you saw her.
The last time I saw her, she was living in Hawthorn. She'd separated from her husband. She had the four little kids. Two of them were in early primary school and the other two, the youngest, was 3. So we used to go and visit them, and the kids, they idolised me and I idolised them, and I was the cool auntie and it was all happy, and she was a bit lost and doing her best, struggling a little bit just after the relationship breakdown. Her kids were always first and foremost. And
so she was raising them as a single mum?
Yeah, she was. She was doing an amazing job. And she, from a very young age, she never liked to be alone. Obviously she'd had her kids, but she always would like to be with a friend or very social, and so that was very hard for her because she had to move sort of from one end of the Melbourne to another, and she struggled a little bit with that, but we were all on board and around her and doing our best to support her and the kids. As a mum, she was just the best. She actually let me go into the labour ward with her for her first 2 children's birth, and we went through that together, and that was just beautiful. And she just, her kids, the way she, taught them and played with them and nurtured them and made them laugh and, let them know what boundaries in life were acceptable and not, and all the good values that they have in themselves today are from her, even though she wasn't with them for so long. They still kept them values.
Losing my mum has always been incredibly hard. Even though I was so young, only 3 when she passed, I don't have any personal memories of her, and that in itself has been painful. Growing up knowing I had a mum, but not being able to remember her, the impact on me has been so deep that I really don't remember the first 10 years of my life consistently. Instead, I've grown up with her absence, always aware of the space she should have had in my life. The hardest part of losing her has been growing up without a mum's love, comfort and guidance. You really feel it at every stage. Birthdays, school events, milestones, and now as a parent myself. There's always been a piece missing, a moment where I thought, I wish my mum was here.
Tell me what you know about that day.
A couple of weeks prior, 2 weeks, I'd visited Kelly and she was doing okay, and she'd had a guy that she was seeing at the time. I didn't think anything of it because she was lonely and heartbroken. And then, so that was really happy. And then I rang her a week later and I couldn't get onto her. And the phone just kept ringing out like in them days you could pull the phone out the wall and it'd just continually ring. And I was concerned, and so I rang and said, have you heard from Kelly? I'm worried. And he'd said that he'd went back around to Kelly's, and when he got there, he could hear some really bad verbal abuse and fighting and a male and Kelly. And he didn't choose to knock on the door. He chose to just and leave. And yeah, and that's when Kelly was getting killed.
Tell me about how you found out about her death.
Well, I rang him again and I said, there's something not right. I said, I'm going to go around tomorrow after work. And he said, well, I'll meet you. So we met and we went up to the house and knocked on the door and there was no answer. So I broke the glass panel and broke into the house. I knew something was wrong because it was like 38-degree days all that week and there was a really bad smell, but I didn't put two and two together. And then I called out and I went into her room and I found her murdered.
How do you live with seeing Kelly that way?
Never leaves me. Every time I think of her, that's the last image. So much so that when the police came, because she was completely unrecognisable, and the police came and I said to them, I want to go back in the room. And they looked at me like a weirdo and they said, what for? It's a crime scene. I said, because I just can't believe that's her. It's not her. I need to go back in. And they said, you don't want to do that. And I don't know why, but I just couldn't believe it was her. But it was. Yeah, it was.
Even though I don't remember her, I know she mattered. She was loved and her life had value. I often find myself imagining what she must have gone through in those final moments. And it's something that's very hard to carry. Knowing that she died in such a violent way makes the grief even heavier.
A man who was Kelly's friend was charged about a month later. What happened there after he was charged?
When we got to Kelly's house, we heard a back door slam. And we went out. I didn't go out the back, went out and couldn't see anyone. And then we found out through the investigation that, and he admitted it, that he was actually living in the house for 3 days while Kelly was in the house. And he was getting washing machines, dryers, TVs, picked up from taxis and taking them to cash converters. He even sold a CD for 50 cents.
So he sold her belongings.
Sold her belongings, went through her house, had the taxi drivers give evidence. He admitted to selling all that and being there, but said he didn't know Kelly was there. He didn't go in that. That was the only room. He didn't go in.
And the jury believed him.
Yeah.
What was his relationship to Kelly?
I think they just sort of started seeing each other briefly. Yeah, a couple of weeks, like 2.
When he was acquitted, how did that impact you and Kelly's children and your family?
It was like our hearts had been ripped out all over again, because we were told from the homicide squad with all the evidence, they had it in the bag, and wasn't that case. They said because of her lifestyle, she had people, a lot of visitors at her house, that's what put the doubt in their mind. But the people that were having a majority to do with her were her support people.
When they said because of her lifestyle, what were they implying?
Well, after her marriage broke down, she ended up getting onto speed and marijuana, but she was trying to get off it the weeks prior because she'd rang and left a message on my mum's answering machine. And then also when they done the autopsy, she had no drugs in her system. So...
How long had she been using for?
a couple of months.
So would you have said she was addicted, or it was just a very short phase?
It was a short phase of just, I think, the heartbreak that she was going to and trying to manage on her own with 4 little babies, you know. And then she realised that things were getting out of hand and she was getting back on track. And then for some reason, this...
Do you believe that the defence deliberately played up this small downturn in her life to get him off? They deliberately made her look bad?
100%. They even said at one point that maybe she'd done it to herself. And on her death notice, she died of asphyxiation, so she was strangled. Her whole face was just smashed to bits, and she was jumped on, pelvis and that. Pretty bad.
Do you believe the jury got it right, or do you think that someone else killed her and police charged the wrong person?
Yeah, definitely. I think someone else, whether it was someone else that actually killed her, there was definitely someone else that had to be involved. There was also another incident that her car, the newspaper delivery man, because I lived in a court, was delivering papers, and about 4 a.m. one morning, there was several blokes around her car which looked like they were trying to come to a deal to sell it. Well, then her car ended up being at the front of the Richmond flats, but we never knew how that car got there and who took it there. her wallet and purse was found in another unit, but they never got brought into court as to how that got there. And there was just so many screw-ups like that. And then in the trial, one of the jurors fell asleep mid-trial.
And your mum, I understood, requested a coroner's inquest.
Yeah,
What happened?
got rejected straight away. I also believe my youngest niece, she's tried different avenues, all been rejected. I've tried public prosecutors, police commissioner, victims of crime, Darren Hinch, Spotlight, Current Affair, and no one will touch it.
No one wants to sit down and talk to you.
No.
How does that make you feel?
Like a nobody. Like this just didn't exist and it doesn't matter. And I get really angry. I get angry at situations which I still 100% feel for people's family and what have you. But, for example, if 2 policemen got killed on the job, within 2 hours, they light up the Westgate Bridge in blue. Within 3 hours, the whole of Melbourne's lit up in blue. You know, what about our women and our children? If they put lights up every time a woman or a child got murdered, the city would be lit up 24/7.
There was almost no media coverage around Kelly's death, was there? It was like she just never existed.
Never existed. She got a 3-paragraph article, single mother in Hawthorn found murdered. That was it. Even when we went through the court systems, that was it, nothing.
I found that women who don't fit a particular stereotype of the perfect victim are always left behind. Do you see any time in the future when that might change, or do you think it's the way it's always going to be?
It hasn't changed for a long time. My mum's best friend, her daughter was raped and murdered in the 70s. And the guy that done it, just before he got convicted, they took out hanging. So he only got 20 years. So 20 years for a life? That's wrong. So how come now? So that was from 1973. Not a lot's changed. Like, I've had 3 murders in my family, and the laws haven't changed. The laws are just as weak.
You told me the other day about a clairvoyant. Can you walk me through that again?
I had a friend say to me that they'd been to see a clairvoyant and that my sister had come through. And then I went and seen the clairvoyant myself. Mind you, the friend, she's a completely different clairvoyant. And the one she's seen was 5 years ago. I seen one last week. And straight away she said, yeah, was your sister murdered? And I said, yeah. And said it's a complicated case, and that just confirmed what I've been thinking over 20 years.
Does it concern you that this other suspect was never investigated by police?
Yeah, 100%. The whole investigation wasn't investigated 100% by the police, I feel. You know? Like, all right, The jury said he's not guilty. Well, if he's not guilty, who is? He ransacked my sister's house while she lay there. Didn't get charged with anything about that. Didn't get charged with robbery, theft, nothing. It was like just none of it existed.
How do you feel when you see the police offer very large rewards for cold cases?
It just breaks my heart into a million pieces that I feel like my sister didn't matter and that she wasn't important enough. And she did matter. Was important, and she was a mother and a sister and a friend. And it just makes me livid that it's just like she was a nobody. But to so many people, she was everything.
Now that I'm a mum, I can understand how hard life can be and how much she must have struggled at times. I wish her life had gone differently because she deserved more from life and more from the people around her. I want people to understand that her death didn't just end her story, it changed the course of my life forever. I deserved answers and she deserved justice. If I could speak to the police or Attorney General, I'd tell them that this isn't just about reopening a case. It's about acknowledging the long-term impact of her loss. I grew up without her, and that wound will never fully heal. She deserved a proper investigation, and I, along with her other family members, deserved closure.
If you could speak to the police minister or the Attorney General about your sister's case, if they would meet you one-on-one, what is it that you would say to them?
Start again and get it right and change the laws so this doesn't continue to happen, because I'm sure I'm not the only one that's had someone murdered that's just been brushed under the carpet. And it's women and children mainly, and they need to stop talking shit and saying they're going to do this and do that, and none of it happens. Or if they do it, if the law does change, they don't put it into practice. They don't want to do the paperwork. I don't know what it is, but that definitely need to change. Otherwise, there'll be no women and children left. And, you know, these men and perpetrators need to be accountable for and need to be known for the rest of the public's safety. They're predators and they prey on vulnerable women and children, and they get what they can out of them, and then they go and live on their happy life. Yet they didn't kill one person, they've killed a whole family.
I want you to tell me about your son, if you're comfortable.
Not long after my sister passed, I fell pregnant with a little jelly bean, and I'd struggled with pregnancy, so he was my little miracle man. And he was born 8 weeks prem. We fought really hard to come into this world. He was just the most precious little boy. Time went on and his father was chronic alcoholic and violent, so we left. And sometimes later I hooked up with a very, I thought was a friend I'd known for a long time. And I hadn't been well because of my PTSD with Kelly. So we went away just for a couple of days, and he was helping me with my son Maxie, who wasn't even one. And I went to kiss him goodnight one night, and he'd had a seizure. So I rang the ambulance, and they ended up rushing him to hospital. And I found out that he'd been shaken twice in 2 weeks. His spinal cord was severed, and they diagnosed him as a vegetable and said he'd never get off life support. He did get off life support, and he fought. And I got absolutely drilled from the police and DHS amongst it all. I was living at the hospital. But that's all right, because I knew that I didn't hurt him and he knew that I didn't hurt him. So, and then long story short, he spent his first birthday, October the 31st, in hospital. And then he passed on the 20th of December, and we buried him on Christmas Eve. And now with that case, we went to the coroners. He got found guilty.
The coroner.
The coroner found him guilty because it was just the two of us. And I was so unwell, 35 kilos. Maxie was a solid little well-fed chubber. And with all the evidence, they knew I couldn't have even physically hurt him. They knew it was him. So then he got found guilty at the inquest. And then for some reason at the trial, because they can't bring up priors, he got off. So they know I didn't kill him. They're saying, or half of them are saying, he didn't kill him. Who killed him? The boogeyman?
It feels like the justice system has repeatedly turned a blind eye to you and your family.
Yeah, 100%. It's like, why aren't we so important? Why don't we matter? Why won't anyone hear us? So my sister mattered, and her story can be told, and hopefully it can help other people in some way, any way. It just destroys me every day. I've got kids that miss out on her. Her kids miss out on her. She'd be a grandmother, but she's a grandmother now. No. What happened to Granny? Well, she was murdered. As I said, it doesn't just kill one person, it kills the whole family. And my sister was murdered, but she also died of a broken heart. And I made a promise to try and get justice. And I've been trying for 20 years. And you're the first person that would listen. I've 20 years.
How do you continue getting up every day and doing this fight? Because it is so fucking hard.
I'm fucked. I'm sick every day. I've suffered chronic PTSD, anxiety, depression. I've got kidney disease, low weight. If there's a date, an anniversary, guaranteed I'm in hospital because it goes all. I get physical pain, I vomit, I get diarrhea, therefore I'm 40 kilos. I get flashbacks, I get smells. But the worst part is not having it. You know, I have dreams that she comes, knocks on the door, and she laughs and says, "Oh, just pretending I just wanted to have a holiday." And then you wake up and it's not real. You know, my son, he'd be 21 now, and every birthday, every Christmas, I've got 2 other sons. They want to know what their brother was like, and you don't get a chance. And they want to know who killed their brother and who killed their auntie. And what am I meant to say the rest of my life? I don't know. We deserve to know.
If Kelly and Maxie were to have a legacy, what do you see that being?
just to protect. There needs to be more resources, more supports, more everything. Everything needs to be flipped over. The laws, they're so weak. Even in my past relationship, I had an intervention order put on my ex-partner till 2060. He's breached it that many times. But, there's always, was there a witness? Was there an alibi? And they just slip through. And then next thing they're beating up some other woman and killing some other woman or child.
Her legacy for me is strength. Even without her, her story makes me determined to be strong for my kids, to fight for them, and to make sure they always feel my love in a way I never got the chance to feel hers.
What else do you want people to know about Kelly's story?
It was bullshit, the way it was investigated from day dot. And I think she would want this to never happen to any mother or children again. So she watches her kids suffer without having a mother. And I think she would want that to not happen to any other child. Because every child deserves a mother, and vice versa. And just make things happen so all this carnage stops for women and children, if that makes sense.
Kelly Williams Duffy was murdered on February 27, 2002 in Hawthorne, Victoria. Her lover, Raphael Desano, was charged over her death. He went to trial but was acquitted by a jury. No one else has been charged and police have not reopened the investigation into Kelly's murder. Kelly Williams Duffy matters.
You've been watching She Matters. Presented by Cheryl Moody. Produced and edited with care at Dashmade Studios. If you would like to support She Matters and explore more of Cheryl's important work, please visit AustralianFemicideWatch.org. If this episode has brought anything up for you, there are support services available.